I talked about this earlier. I want to bring this up to you because I thought this was the craziest, mind-blowing stat that I've heard probably all college football season. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
So on AYS Sports SEC, which all you need to go over and to subscribe to, I had Brooks Austin on from the film guy on YouTube. He covers the Bulldogs for Sports Illustrated. Did you know that Hugh Freeze has been a coach for a head coach for 11 seasons?
Yeah.
In 8 of those seasons, he's had 20 plus turnovers from his offense in those seasons, meaning he has been one of the most turnover prone offensive coaches that we've ever seen in our history. So let me repeat that. Of the 11 seasons that Hugh Freeze has been a head coach, 8 of them, they've had 20 plus turnovers on a season. How crazy is that?
That's bonkers.
Now that's his stat. If it's wrong, that's not on me. That's on Brooks Austin. I love you, Brooks. Here's the reason I bring this up in the conversation that me and you are about to have.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, they can move the football, man. They're 23rd in the country in total offense. They're 23rd in the country in passing offense. They're top 30 in rushing offense. The problem is, here's the problem. They can't score and they turn the football over. Joe, they're 132nd in the country in turnovers. It's how they're losing games, man. Joe, what if I would have told you this? If I would have told you in the beginning of the season that Auburn would have a top 23 or top 25 total offense, top 23 in passing, and top 20 or top 30 in rushing, you know what you would be telling me? Man, Peyton Thorne might be on a Heisman trajectory. But the problem has been that the turnovers has led them into that. I don't think that matters. Georgia's out for blood.
Well, that's the key point here. Yeah, I mean, we can put lipstick on the pig as much as we want to with Auburn. Turnovers are turnovers. I really, I'm going to be completely blunt here. I really don't care how many yards you put up if you turn the ball over. It doesn't mean it. And those are great stats. Those are all great stats, and they can move the football. But it doesn't mean shit to me if you can't put points on the board and you can't finish drives. That means you're undisciplined. That means you're poorly coached. You know what you just told me about Hugh Freeze? You just told me he's an overrated coach because all of his numbers and all of his stats and his performances are just lipstick on a freaking pig. No, I'm already on this hill. I'm not going to get off of it. I am on this high horse. I'm standing by it until Hugh Freeze shows me otherwise. But to this point, get back games are a very real thing with great coaches. Coaches who suffer a bad loss, come in pissed off in the week of practice, and they take it all out on their opponent. There's also the letdown games, which when we talk about the Alabama game tomorrow, I'll have a take on that. But for everything and all the issues that they're working through, man, for Peyton Thorne or whoever plays quarterback, assuming it's Peyton Thorne again, for them having to face off with that Georgia secondary, they're going to eat. You can get as many yards as you want. You think that Malachi Starks isn't licking his chops looking at the film this week?
I got to be honest with you. Malachi Starks had a bad game.
No, I know. I don't know if I'm going to give him grace there because the plays that Ryan Williams made over the top of him, man, like there are some unreal, like it's one of those situations where there's nothing he could do.
It's not only that. There were multiple screen passes that they ran where Kendrick Law was body bagging Malachi Starks.
Okay, to get back to the point here, Malachi Starks, though, is still one of the best defensive backs in the country and one of the most reactive defensive backs in the country at reading defenses, reading the ball in the air, reading offenses and reading the ball in the air, all of those things. They're going to get turnovers. They're going to turnover. This is not the game that Auburn fixes it. This is the game where it gets accentuated, the problems that you're going
here's
through.
Where I backtrack on that on you. You ready? But they did that last year. This was the game that they turned things around and turnovers started getting reduced. I mean, Joe, you can't. I mean,
was it?
Yeah, remember it was a 27-20 game and Georgia won.
No, I remember the game was close, but I don't remember that narrative being the same thing that we were talking about turnovers.
They only had like 2. They came into it like having like a 9-10 turnovers, and then they come in, they play Georgia, they play LSU, and they have 2 in the mix of the next 3 or 4 game span. Look, is that going to repeat itself? The strong likelihood is that it won't.
No.
I'm going to
lean also at Auburn too.
Well, you're right. It was at Auburn, and this one's in Athens. Joe, I think that they really want to respond here. Look, I am not remotely close to giving up on this football team. Look, this football team, and I think this continues to get missed by the national media, and I guess we're part of it now too, but that team still came all the way back and took a lead. Like, if Ryan Williams did not
the Georgia team. I thought you were talking about Auburn. I was like, what?
No. Well,
they gave up a lead.
Last week, Georgia came all the way back and took a lead.
Yeah.
And if that game is not on the road, then what? Like, if they finally got that game at home, how would that game have been? Now, Joe, I need to see them to make mistake-free football offensively. They have made too many mistakes on offense. And I've seen a lot of Georgia fans call for Mike Bobo's head. Brother, you got wide open dudes running down the field. And I've got to be real with you, man. Carson Beck has been a little bit of a disappointment for me early in the season. Not with the tools and traits and what he's done, because he led them all the way back. You know that he's got it in there. Herb Street on the call on Saturday said, well, that's the, they get a touchdown. He goes, well, that's the Carson Beck we know. You're right. It's been the bad decision-making early, Joe. They come out of halftime, make serious adjustments, then he gets rolling. That's got to get cleaned up. Now, Auburn is not the team that I think that can test you like that. But I want to see them start making better decisions on offense. Joe, I thought, last week they got out-schemed. I don't know if they can out-scheme this defense. I don't think Auburn can out-scheme them. So I don't want to say Georgia blowout, because anything happens in a rivalry game. The bottom line, though, here for Georgia is you just got to start making some mistake-free football happen, and you'll get back to who you are.
Biggest thing for me coming into this game, right now they're 102nd in rush yards per game. They're averaging 120. Georgia is. They're averaging 129 yards per game, which it's not a terrible number, but they're near the bottom compared to some other programs. When we watch it play, that makes a ton of sense, because there's been a lot of times where their offense has been a little slow to get going. It was slow to get going against Clemson, but they were just so much better than them that they separated pretty quickly. And it dug them into a hole when they couldn't run the football against Alabama, like we talked about in the recap. I need to see in this game, going up against a pretty quality front seven that Auburn has. This isn't a front seven where you're just going to run right over them. I want to see, can you step out and in the first drive get 5-6 carries? Can you just try to establish the run? And albeit with the injuries that you're dealing with at offensive line, I don't know what the deal is with Jared Wilson, and we know that Tate Ratledge is out for the foreseeable future. Can you nut up and can you run the ball and find success and start to build momentum? When you have offensive lineman depth and talent as good as Georgia does, we're not talking about a program like Minnesota or something that when you bring in another guard, he can't do anything and it's a true freshman or whatever, any of those along those lines. But when you've got a talented group, sometimes you just need to get the right mindset. Sometimes you just need to get that, we're going to run the ball, we're going to create some space, we're going to punch some dudes in the face every single play, and we're going to get 4 or 5 yards every single time we hand it off. It feels like because they're not focusing on it and they're focusing too much on Carson Beck Heisman season with all the play calling, that they're getting away from effectively being a rushing team that they were in the past. BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Let me give them this, though. I gotta defend Bobo on this part. They have seen a lot of man-to-man high free safety. Like, a lot of guys have been at the box. And it's up to if you want to get this running game going, it's up to Carson Beck. Joe, the running lane started opening up when Carson Beck started completing passes. Bama backed out when they started completing stuff. Kentucky had one free high the entire game, Joe. They were like, we're not going to let you run if Carson Beck is going to throw it all over the place, which, by the way, Joe, he didn't.
You know what my pushback is? I agree. I see what you're saying, but you know what my pushback is today? You're Georgia. You're supposed to step up and be able to make plays in those situations. You can't get out schemed that easily by a one-man.
The argument to that, though, would be, well, okay, hit your guys that are open. Stop making bad decisions. And then they will back out. And because you have injuries along your offensive line, Joe, maybe they're not getting as much push. Now, I don't agree with that necessarily, but here's the thing. On 4th down last week, Trevor Etienne had to break a tackle from a safety in the backfield to get 5 yards for a first down. The only way that happens is that they're stacking the box. So I agree with, look, they got to find a way to get back to their identity. When we had Josh Pate on here, what was the thing that he asked me when he asked us our question, our thoughts about Georgia, Alabama? I said that I did not think that Georgia had an offensive identity. They don't. They don't. Joe, how many times did they run 4 verts like it was college football 25 and you're down 21? I mean, let's call it what it is. That's what they did. I agree with you on this sentiment. They got to find a way to run the football, or here's a little newsflash, extensions of the running game. Not making those extensions have hurt you. So I agree. Let me ask you this before we change pages here.
Mm-hmm.
You're with me. I mean, like, Georgia's going to bounce back here, right? Like, I mean, we're not.
They're going to kick the shit out of them. I mean, this is going to be one of those videos that we titled that we were joking about last show. Blowout. Georgia football will blow out Auburn football. That's what the title.
By the way, I gotta say this because you know the ties to some of the coaches, not at the school that I cover, but I had a Big Ten right hand come to me today and send me our video and
were they mad about the title? And
they were like, "Can you stop saying that our school's going to blow this team out, please?" And I'm like,
"No,
I don't make the title."
Okay. To peel back the curtain for a quick second, how SEO and titling works on YouTube. If I put, for example, Oregon will beat Michigan State, people are going to scroll past that. But if you're a Michigan State fan and you see that your team is going to get blown out in the title, you're like, "Hey, what the F?" Or if you're an Oregon fan, you're like, "Damn right we are." And then you're going to click into the video. So I'm sorry. That coach is just going to have to deal with it.
I'm literally going to go title every video that I have now, why such and such team is going to blow out the other.
Yeah, do it.
I just got to say, I'm going to type the word pause every time I do it with a saying.
Okay.
All right.